Hi, everyone. We're fast approaching that season of the Christian calendar called Lent. Now, some of you have been exposed to or heard of Lent before. If you've thought about any sort of the Catholic traditions, many people have heard that phrase. It's typically, basically, a 40-day period. The exact 40 days, or does it omit the Sundays? You can look at the calendar for that. But basically, a 40-day period of preparation leading up to Easter, which is the time of the year when we totally focus on the trial, the crucifixion, the burial, and the resurrection of Jesus Christ, affecting our redemption that isn't available through any other way, and the promise of eternal life. That's pretty much all Christians acknowledge that that's when you do, and that's when the time of the year you would celebrate that. As a result, this time of preparation, of discipline, of ways in which you think about your own mortality, the seriousness of what made that redemption necessary, and really making it an uncommon time of focusing on your spiritual discipline, that manner in which or how closely you've been following Christ. Well, Lent is an opportunity for spiritual disciplines to really engage in a non-standard way out of the pattern, and strengthen yourself and kind of prepare yourself to make this Easter special. Well, how do you do that? Well, many people will talk about, there's ways in which people talk about the disciplines that put yourself in your place, that voluntarily humble yourself before God, that meditate on those aspects of you that made redemption necessary in the first place, which oftentimes aren't really pleasant to think about. But nevertheless, these spiritual disciplines that allow a person to think about and prepare for the main event. The best analogy I can think of right now is if anyone has ever watched the Rocky movies, Sylvester Stallone's classic boxing drama. And those movies that we're seeing, later on, some of them became kind of somewhat, silly in terms of just focusing on the boxing, but they were always a drama of dealing with how one kind of goes through that struggle leading up to the main event, the main fight. Well, something that's common to every one of those Rocky movies is the montage, the training montage. There isn't a man alive that I'm aware of who hasn't had the inspiration to get off the couch and go work out because of the training montage, because they just love the struggle of it. Well, it's all this preparation leading up to the main event. And so when you watch a story like that, you're like, okay, gearing up for what's to come. Well, Easter is no different. And Lent is the opportunity to gear up for that. And so in that manner in which people, when they look across the ritual landscape of the Christian calendar, and different times of the year have these peaks and valleys. Well, these times where you have rituals that are collected together and are more significant than any other. Most people recognize that Christians will make Christmas and Easter their main times, but Easter is far more significant, because without Easter, Christmas makes no sense. There's no reason to why you would celebrate the birth of Christ in East and Near East if indeed he hadn't already effected our salvation for us. Anyway, so with Easter being the main event, cue the training montage leading up to that. And those disciplines include ways in which you engage in some manner of uncommon training, preparing for the main event of Easter. Now, that uncommon training that you're going to engage, authors like Dallas Willard and Richard Foster have really helped us understand what are those classic Christian disciplines that people engage in. Now, the most obvious one that people remember is the most common of the abstaining disciplines, because spiritual disciplines fall into two categories: abstaining disciplines and engaging disciplines. And the abstaining disciplines are something you take away from your regular schedule, that's going to strain you, that's going to put you through your paces. That's basically going to be like adding weights at the gym, in a sense. This is an uncommon training for you. And the abstaining disciplines take away, and the engaging disciplines add. So something that's non-common for your regular daily life, your regular routines, something that will spiritually test you, that either takes away or adds to your normal routine. Well, the most common and the most famous of the abstaining disciplines is fasting. And fasting, many people will try to give sort of versions of fasting where they say, well, I'm fasting from X, I'm fasting from sugar, I'm fasting from social media, I'm fasting from this or that. Well, historically, fasting is the abstaining from food. And people will say, well, I don't know, I've got low blood sugar. I don't care how you figure it out, but fasting is the abstaining from the most understandable and necessary habit that humans have, and that is your fuel, your food. And so in any way you engage that in a manner that works for you, that is the classic, most common Christian discipline that's been engaged since going back into well into biblical times. So there's a lot of Bible verses about fasting too that you can engage in. But fasting is one of those abstaining disciplines where you take away something that you go, oh my goodness, the discipline of my body, my very natural body's appetites, in favor of prayer, in favor of spiritual awareness, in favor of meditation about what made this type of redemption, the violent crucifixion of the Son of God, his death and his resurrection on my behalf, what made that necessary? What is it about me that made that required? It's not an uncomfortable idea. I mean, it's not a comfortable thought to dwell on, but fasting, it creates the opportunity to do that. But all the spiritual disciplines help engage that process. So you have abstaining disciplines like fasting, sometimes secrecy, sometimes sacrifice, frugality, silence, and solitude. There's these different abstaining disciplines, but there's the engaging disciplines as well, like study, worship, celebration, prayer, fellowship. You're adding something to your routine that wasn't otherwise there. But nevertheless, this is all part of those disciplines that go into Lent. Now, Lent typically begins with Ash Wednesday. A lot of people are familiar with that Ash Wednesday kicking off Lent. And so oftentimes they have like some sort of festival right before that, because that's your last opportunity to really enjoy yourself before going into this time of that's the time of severe preparation. Again, many are familiar with the concept of Mardi Gras, which is in the Southeast, has this this old tradition of the last big party you can throw before this time of severe training leading up to Easter. For us, we have kind of a pancake supper. It's a time of fellowship, but then instantly after that, cue the training montage, baby. It's time to get serious. And so you go and you lead into Lent, and that time is spent really with an uncommon level of self-discipline. Things that you wouldn't normally do, things that don't think you can even sustain the rest of the time. Preparing for the main event, and that is Easter, the celebration of the work of Christ that affected our salvation. So Lent is coming. It's just a couple weeks away. Think about how you want to engage it, make the most of it, so that you can be fully trained up and ready for that main event. Again, cue the training montage. How can I be ready for that time of Easter and make the most of it, because it is the highest holy day of the year. And of all the times that as a Christian, you really want to pull out all the stops and make sure you're totally ready, this is how you do it. So think about Lent, how you're going to engage it. Don't tell anybody else about it. Just you consider it and think about how you're going to make the most of it. That's all I have for today. God bless you. If you enjoyed this content, please hit like and subscribe, and we will keep it up.